A very warm good evening to all of you on behalf of ET Brand Equity and Clever Tap. I would extend my very warm welcome all of you to the Big Leap Rise with Retention Roadshow Mumbai chapter. I am Namita Sachdev, your host for the evening. Finally, I got a chance to officially introduce myself, which I would love to. Well, as Jeff Bezos has once said, the most important thing is to obsessively focus on the customer. It's our job every day to make every important aspect of the customer experience a little bit better or easier, I can say. I hope you all would agree to that. ET Brand Equity and Clever Tap have joined forces to bring the most comprehensive and biggest ever program in the customer retention domain, the Big Leap, for which we all have been gathered here. The program is widespread over the next 6 months. I must tell you that this program is going to host exclusive interviews, multiple city roadshows, digital dialogues, networking events, and informal meetups with India's digital pioneers. Today, at the Rise with Retention Roadshow, as presented by ET Brand Equity and powered by Clever Tap, we'll deep dive into customers' journeys and how brands can create customized solutions to retain them. I believe that's the most important. And today, in today's era, it's a social media era. So I must say our social media hashtag is hashtag the big leap and hashtag retain to gain. You can all catch the live updates on ET Brand Equity and Clever Tap official handles. Now, to formally welcome everyone and set the tone of today's evening, I would like to invite on stage Mr. Tapan Acharya, who is the Senior Vice President, Meta in India, Clever Tap. Can we have a loud round of applause for Tapan? I must tell you that Tapan has been in the industry for over 2 decades, working in various roles as a consultant, developer, product marketing and CXO for organizations including IBM and Microsoft, to name a few. Very warm welcome, Tapan. Stage is yours now.
Good evening, everyone. My equals, my betters. I was having a backstage stage discussion. It's a privilege for me to introduce the topic to the gathering. I want to quickly, in the next few minutes, level set the conversation and the stage. We were just talking about India, and we were saying that, earlier, like 2 decades back, 3 decades back, we used to say, okay, I have a 64 MB RAM computer. Now more than 8 GB RAM phones we have. So the computing power in everybody's hand is completely different. The speed of data is massive. The computing power, speed of data, integrated taxation, as well as the digital payments has powered the economy a lot. What has also happened in the past few years, if you see few decades, if I may say, the tech has come to MarTech. And it has married the principles to scale. When I say the word scale, let me just expand on the scale, because the scale we are going to talk about is unforgiving. I was just talking to Pepperfry, and they said that their monthly users are upwards of 10 million. Just FYI, Singapore population is 5 million. So we are talking about twice Singapore engagement. I was talking to Kisht, and they said the amount of loans they've disbursed is about 3 million. Just FYI, population of Dubai is 3.3 million. So we are talking at Dubai base as customer. A lot of folks, I was talking to Testbook, and they said approximately in a year, 120 million people take their tests. So just FYI, number of taxpayers in the country is 82.2 million people. So this is the scale we are talking about. So let's pay real attention, because the scale in the digital network is unforgiving. One mistake is on a massive scale. One fantastic engagement is also on a massive scale, because you're going to segment this. And I was just talking this to the backstage, because there's not a customer. It is a distribution of customer. It's a bell curve of customer, which is engaging on various levels of conversations with you at the same time. The consciousness is engaging, the maturity, the different customers mature to a different level, but they are engaging with your brand in a different way at the same time. So that's why tech has coming to MarTech, and the evolution has happened. Let's see how the user has evolved. For people at the back who are not able to read the slide, this just talks about how much waking time we spend on the phone. 1/3 of our waking time we spend looking on the phone. By the way, some of us get paid for a 9-hour shift. Just FYI. So which is 5 hours. Approximately we are awake for 15 hours in a day. 5 hours we spend on a phone, 9 hours we get paid for, some people get paid for a shift. And in this 5 hours, the phone is the lens to the world. We unlock our phone, the number is there, 150 times in a day. Approximately time between 2 unlocks is most of the time 3 minutes. And that is completely driving our consciousness. Most of our favorite apps, we sleep to that app, we wake up to that app. And we sleep to the phone, we wake up to the phone. It's the lens to the world. And there are various journeys we do on the phone. We search music, we book a cab, food, buy products. And the key thing which all these businesses being asked is, what's your monthly retention rate? And why is retention so important? It is, of course, coming from the principle of habit, that it takes about 21 days to build a habit. However, it is also one more important fact. 90% of apps get uninstalled in first 3 months, which is, and I'm sure most of my equals, my betters sitting here would be burning huge money, the cost for acquiring a customer, to acquire a customer. In 3 months, if the customer uninstall your app, then it is marketing money bonfire. It's going to the bonfire completely. And hence, the evolution of tech has happened. In the past 30 years, we've seen, firstly, there was a wave of database marketing. And I want to fast forward the topic to the current tech world. There was database marketing, spamming, then email marketing, same message, sent to everyone. Now it is doing more harm than benefit. It's more important to have very tailored messages, because there are 2 things which we don't want to give to anyone: time and attention. If you can save these 2 things for me, time and attention, that's the way your app fits me. If your app fits me, you're great. I love your app. On this, I also want to talk about one very important topic is, with this, actually every tech transaction, or not even a transaction, a tech is becoming a conversation. It's not a transaction. Whenever somebody's opening your app, okay, how many times you open my app? If you're looking at collared t-shirt, you get to know from the catalog master what articles you're looking at, what's your favorite, and the user, the customer, the distribution curve of the customer is dropping breadcrumbs. This is my favorite color. I like sun colors. I like collared t-shirt. In Sephora, this is my favorite, let's say. So the customer is completely in a conversation with you by the usage of their apps. And like on a store, you see what catalog the person is looking at, what's the water of the eye, what are the favorite payment methods, what is this type of customer, what kind of promos the customer prefer to. Doing that on scale is the name of the game. And that's what we are going to talk about. And of course, the customer retention is number 1 priority to save your marketing dollars. Also, there's another thing which I've written at the bottom is, once you have acquired the customers, you can land various business waves on that customer. It could be starting with food tech to grocery delivery, etc., etc. But these are 2 separate waves once you've acquired the customer. And of course, retention is very, very profitable. It's common sense, but then if you want to measure numbers, the numbers are on the screen. It's very important for us because we don't want to give a lot of attention to anybody else unknown, is that we get the message, the medium, the scale in context. While I am doing something, I want it in context. And of course, there has to be tech designed which gets you in context. For example, if you keep thinking that whether so many notifications I'll be able to send or not, that won't happen. CleverTap does something similar to that. What you see on the right-hand side is how the world a lot operates. They have disparate tool chains. On one way, they segment the data, they keep the data. Another way, they segment it. Another one, they find out what is the behavior, what are the trends. And another tool to distribute the messages. What we have is an integrated chain where you have, in context, you analyze and you segment and you distribute and you engage with your customer. The way it helps is it's very, very real time. For example, let's say while you are playing a game and buy the shield to, save yourself. It could be as real time as that. Or while you have it in the cart to send the same message at that point of time. So it really, really helps. Hand of God, there are, just globally numbers once again, there are 6 billion smartphones approximately globally. We are there in 3 billion phones across the world. So we do about 1 trillion notifications every month. So with that, I'm just waiting to speak to all the gems here. And I was, when I was talking to them backstage, I was reminded by Socrates, who said, "I know that I know nothing." So thank you very much, and I welcome you all to this topic.
Thank you so much, Tapan, for setting the flow of the evening and for an even insightful presentation. Hope you all are following #TheBigLeap. And don't forget to post your selfies too, along with your networking moments with industry peers. And we promise to retweet you today. Catch all the live updates at ET Brand Equity and CleverTap official handles. Now, before moving forward, my favorite part is the quiz, of course. For the most awaited session of the evening, we have to wait for that. Let's take some time out to identify the real retention masters in this hall room we have. Yes, we present a power quiz for all of you. As we all know, you're looking at the scan code here. I must tell you what all are the rules to play this quiz. First of all, you can scan this QR code on the screen, or you can visit kahoot.it and enter the game pin shown on screen. One screen is there behind. You can scan the code from there also. Second step is all the participants must use their first name and their last name as nicknames to identify them correctly. Third step, please use names within 15 character limits. Middle name is not necessary or mandatory, I must say. Next is enter the game. Wait for the questions to appear on your screen. All the question and answers will be visible on the screen, and participants will have 30 seconds to answer the questions. That's very important. You just have 30 seconds to answer the questions. Choose your answers wisely, correctly, and quickly. Scores and ranking will be done on the basis of most correct answers given in the least time taken. So it's just like fastest finger first. So awaiting these special prizes here, I have 3 prizes. Yeah. Are you all ready? Yes or no? Yes or no? I'm not getting any yes, I'm not getting any no. So I think we would take it forward for the questions. We would be having 6 questions in this quiz. So can we have the questions on screen? Second, guys. This is the power quiz. Here is the first question for all of you. How many unicorns does India have? 98, 100, 103, 101. Timer is also there. Please keep that in mind before answering. All right. Next question. The initial capital required to start a business venture and prove that the concept is viable is called what? Multiple choice to make it more easier. Next. What is ARPU? Average revenue per user, average revenue per unit, average rate per user, average rate per unit. I hope all the event organizers and speakers would refrain themselves from participating, as we all know that they are the masters. They would only win. All right. How do you measure app stickiness? Time is up. Akshay is on the top, okay. What term refers to the number of customers a company has lost over a period of time? Buying cycle, churn rate, business attrition, monthly loss. Okay. How do you measure CLTV? Okay. So the third one is Akif Iqbal, Advijay, and the first one is 6 out of 6. Wow, that's amazing. Misal to Rakhya. Very nice, guys. All of you are dancing there. Can we have a huge round of applause for all our winners? And I would like to invite Mr. Tapan once again on stage to please hand over these prizes we have with us. Please welcome, sir. So first of all, would like to invite Mr. Misal to please come on the stage and take the prize. A loud round of applause for Misal for answering all the 6 questions out of 6. Congratulations, Misal. Please come forward. I think nothing could be more special than winning an award or a prize on stage. Once again, congratulations to you for winning the first prize. Our second winner, I would like to call upon stage Mr. Advijay. Welcome, Mr. Vijay. It's Advijay, I believe, right? Oh, wow, yeah. Your name is quite nice. Congratulations. And now our third winner is Mr. Akif Iqbal. Please come on the stage and receive your prize. Congratulations to you also as well. Only my applause is like audible. Applauses should continue because it's all about give and take. Hai na? When you will come on stage, then someone will applause for you. Thank you so much, Tapan, for giving all the prizes. Now, we move forward to our most awaited session for the day. The session coming up next will focus on decoding customer retention strategies. So traditionally, brands have always focused on acquiring new customers in order to scale that. The modern growth journey of digital brands does not end at user acquisition. So we have a panel discussion, which is decoding customer engagement strategies for growth. Discussion areas would be changing customer preferences and expectations from brands. Along with that, we have customer engagement and retention, the cornerstone of success for digital brands, the key to building the customer retention strategy that wins, importance of data-driven real-time analytics and engagement, and of course, hyper-personalization, a future of contextual customer engagement. All these points would be the highlights of the discussion. So join me in welcoming our esteemed panelists as they uncover the need to keep users engaged and hooked onto their platforms to unlock the true growth. So may I would like to invite on stage, first of all, once again, Mr. Tapan Acharya, Senior Vice President Meta in India, CleverTap. Can we have a loud round of applause for Tapan? Please welcome Tapan. Along with him, would like to invite on stage Mr. Naveen Chaluvadi, Chief Digital Officer, Yes Bank Limited. I'm sorry if I pronounce your surname wrongly. It's Chaluvadi only. Okay. As a digital business leader, I must tell you, Naveen is passionate about creating large customer journeys. You can please take your seats, sir. Both of you. And implementing small pieces of the same at great speed. He has been working in the space of banking technology for over 2 decades and has worked across various fields of digital banking and payments. So once again, a huge applause for the man himself. Our third distinguished guest is Mr. Vipin Gupta, CTO means Chief Technology Officer, Starbucks India. Please welcome, sir. Vipin comes with close to 2 decades of professional experiences in management, consulting, IT services, and technology leadership spanning across multiple industry verticals. At Starbucks, he is responsible for leading the technology and digital transformation agenda for the organization. Please welcome, sir. Next is Mr. Deepak Sharma, Chief Product Officer, Pepperfry. May I have the honor to welcome you on stage. As a seasoned internet professional, Deepak comes with over 19 years of industry experience and demonstrated abilities to manage and market a product through its life cycle. He has successfully launched and managed numerous internet products. So can we have a huge, huge round of applause for him as well? Our next distinguished speaker of the day is Karan Mehta, who is the founder and Chief Technology Officer, Kisht. Karan comes with a profound knowledge of computer systems and an immense grasp of the new age web development frameworks. At Kisht, he oversees the engineering, the products, data engineering, and QA teams. Can we have a round of applause for him as well? Mr. Anand Dubey is also here as a distinguished speaker of the evening, who is the head of marketing, Mahindra & Mahindra Financial Services. Please welcome, sir. I must tell you, Anand is a marketing professional with over 2 decades of rich experience in building and nurturing Indian and MNC brands. At Mahindra Finance, he is spearheading the marketing function of the financial services sector. He also provides direction and leadership for creating an enviable brand. Please have a huge round of applause for him as well. Our next esteemed panelist of the evening is Mr. Ayush Vashney, who is the Chief Technology Officer, Testbook. Ayush has been leading technology products for more than a decade now. He co-founded 2 startups before and is also listed in the Forbes 30 Under 30 list Asia. Can we have a round of applause for the young man himself? And to chair this wonderful session, I mean the meaningful session, of course, Miss Ashwini Gangal is there, editorial consultant. Ashwini is a Mumbai-based journalist and editorial consultant who has been covering in the Indian advertising, media and marketing space for over 12 years. Can we have a huge round of applause and please welcome Miss Ashwini Gangal on the stage. You are looking gorgeous, beautiful. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Wow. Thank you very much, ET Brand Equity, for that warm welcome. For the introduction, for that amazing introduction, and for inviting me here to moderate this panel. I must add, for inviting me to moderate this in the flesh. Those are the operative words for me, because personally, I'll just share an anecdote. Personally, the last time I was in a room of this sort, speaking with product, tech, brand marketing, digital heads, what have you, was in November 2019. So it's all been virtual for me since then. So let the record reflect that it's a pleasure to be here. So now I'm going to train the spotlight on my panel. They've already been introduced, so that's fantastic. I'm going to jump right in because we have a lot of people and we have an hour. So let's jam. I'm going to begin with a quick round of opening remarks. And it's fantastic to see the variety on this panel. It's a very assorted panel. A little fintech, BFSI, gray area overlap notwithstanding, I think everybody comes with their own unique perspective and unique vantage point. I'm hoping you bring that to your answers. So let your answers be informed by your own unique vantage point and your product and your segment and sub-segment for the BFSI fintech folks. right? So let's begin in no particular order with a quick round of opening remarks. Now, the objective of these opening remarks is to de-jargonize things, okay? I don't like jargon, I never did. So I want to deconstruct what customer engagement means to each of you, okay, given your unique perspectives. So deconstruct it, decode it, pull out your personal, professional lexicons, and talk to us a little bit about what this term even means to you, especially today, given everything that our industry, our market has been through. So let's start with Vipin.
Great. Thank you everyone for inviting and be part of this panel. As Tapan said, I know that I don't know anything, so it's a great opportunity for me to learn also. I think from the background where I come, and especially Starbucks customer engagement or their philosophy has been around creating a third place for its customers, somewhere between home and work, where every customer feels warmth, connected, a little bit on their own, where they can enjoy a nice cup of coffee and have a conversation with the partner in the store. That's what we sort of, that's what all we stand for. So our customer engagement is just all about that. Our customer engagements in the store is all about offering you, having a conversation with a partner, having the right cup of coffee, exactly the way you want to make it. I mean, a lot of customers may not know, but you can actually make in your coffee in thousands of ways. You can actually choose your grind, you can choose your coffee, you can choose your brewing method, you can choose either 3 kinds of milk, 10 kinds of syrups. So all that, right? So that's what it is. And in the digital world, all we try and do is, and for us, we don't really try to oversell. We don't really ask phone numbers from people in our stores. We don't really send hundreds of notifications to our consumers. It's all, we are there, and we just want to be there as a neighborhood store where you can just enjoy a cup of coffee. So engagement for us is just be that.
It's so funny, Vipin, with all that customization, I still go and just say, give me a latte.
Yeah. No, exactly. And we'll talk about that. I mean, in terms of, and that's one of the things is actually the way we want to engage going forward. This has been the strategy, is that we want to increase that brand familiarity in India. Like, I'm sure someone like you is more sophisticated consumer who have traveled and all that, but still you said you are having latte. So we're just trying to, I think, engage with customers going forward, where we can reduce that sort of intimacy or increase the familiarity with the brand, where you understand, and it has been a lot of, when people come to, one example, someone came to the office the other day, I said, like, what would you like to have? He said, like, I just like to have latte. I said, like, no, let me make coffee for you. Why don't you try hazelnut syrup cafe latte with soy milk? And he said, no, I don't know. I was like, don't worry, we're not charging you. This is free, right? So, and then he had that. And then and he said, oh, yeah, next time I'm just going to have that. So definitely for us, engagement, I think still Starbucks is a fairly young brand in India, and all we're trying to do is just to reduce that sort of intimacy, increase the familiarity, accessibility, rest all with our partners who do their job in the stores. That's it.
Fantastic, Vipin. Thank you. I'll come back to you. I have a lot of questions. Naveen, why don't you go next?
Yeah, thanks again. We from banking sector often are laggards when it comes to handling or reputation about providing a good customer experience. In our world, the customer experience, I think, is more restricted to doing things right on a very good day. But I think what we are also trying to do is also make sure that we do better on a very bad day. I mean, what happens on a bad day is what determines the customer engagement with a brand or with an institution. So I think most of the thought that's going in all our new designs is to ensure that how we actually tackle situation when things go wrong. And if we are able to put our 80% of our time in getting those things right, I think that is when we win about our customer experience journeys. Getting things right on the wrong day is one thing. And secondly, I think we also, like Tapan was mentioning, that we are seeing something called as a screenager, right? It is like we are a generation of screenager. It's not a teenager, or it's not a old man, or a mid-aged person who is actually doing transactions. It is screenagers who are interacting with the brands, and as part of that particular behavior or as part of that particular context, we need to ensure that we get our communication on this particular screen right, not once, but all the 150 times that they are looking at the screen in a day, throughout the 5 hours that they are looking at this particular screen. And the amount of thought that goes into what comes at what point of time of the day or what point of interaction with the person plays a very big role, and that is another factor which we believe will define our so-called customer engagement quotient with each and every brand.
Right, right. Yeah, and I'm sure customer engagement means different things to, say, an e-com driven platform like Pepperfry versus Yes Bank versus Starbucks. So, Deepak, what's your, what does your lexicon say? Because it's all about the semantics, really.
Absolutely. So fantastic, fantastic insights from both of you. I think the way that I kind of see it, so for those of you who don't know, Pepperfry is India's largest furniture and home destination. So a furniture is a very personalized, is a very personal kind of purchase. You kind of, you scour the earth before you decide what you want to bring to your house, right? So the way I kind of visualize engagement for us is that it's a ladder, right? So you kind of have to lead people up. You have to lead people up. I mean, if I were to kind of delve into like the 4 P's of marketing, right? The marketing mix: product, price, promotion, and place, right? If you have to kind of lead people up these considerations, do we have the right product that the person is seeking? Is it at the price where they feel that they're getting the value for? Is the promotion right? Is it seasonality? Is it Diwali? And then is it at the right place, given that we're an omni-channel business, right? So all these considerations in my mind kind of lend towards how engagement kind of builds up towards somebody looking to buy a piece of furniture. Because it's a very involved purchase. It's something that you're letting into your personal space. It kind of becomes part of your identity that you show off to people. And one unique kind of aspect to this is, the amount of thought that you would put into your bedroom furniture would be far different from what you would put in your living room furniture, right? So all these considerations come, and like you said, it's very unique to our category. And then this is how we try to look at it, and then we try to figure out, how to kind of like lead people down so that there's really no cognitive dissonance when they're kind of done with their purchase.
And then people ask you, "Kahan se liya?" So that's another thing that happens. I think uniquely
That is
only
the
for
best
you.
case scenario, yeah.
Yes. Let's start with this side now. Yeah, go next.
Okay, so quick introduction to Testbook. So we are a test prep platform. We have a lot of exams in India, right? Some of you would definitely know UPSC and GATE and some top exams, right? They come in the news. But like that, we have around 2,000 exams. That around 3 to 4 crore students every year apply for and take those exams. And we at Testbook, for us, engagement is the primary lever. Because for us, people are not coming to the platform when they want to purchase something. People want to come to the platform just to, take a free class or do some practice, attempt some tests. And just to give some rough insights, almost 90% of everybody who's purchased something at Testbook did it after 3 months of sign up. Now, this is something that is generally not witnessed. Because all that CAC that Tapan said, right? You pay so that people can, purchase it quickly. For us, it's the reverse, right? Because education purchase decisions are like fixed intervals, right? You decide, now I want to go for a coaching, then you sort of go for it. At that time, if Testbook is the app that they're daily practicing on or daily watching a free class on, then we are there. So for us, engagement is a much bigger challenge. How we measure it is primarily in terms of people doing our learning activities, people taking classes. We have competition top right there with YouTube, where there's a lot of free learning happening, and people either choose to go to YouTube or to go to Testbook or to go to some other app to do this free learning. So for us, it's a very different journey from a lot of B2C players where you have to trigger purchases quickly. We really cannot trigger purchases quickly because we cannot force somebody to go enroll in a coaching. They will do it when the season starts. They'll do it when they start their serious preparation. So that is where like Testbook comes from. Our primary biggest teams are focused around engagement. Most of our product teams and our content teams are focused around engagement. So I think engagement is something really crucial for us.
I think you're the only one on the panel for whom it's seasonal, no?
Yes.
Come to think of it, yeah.
Very
yeah.
seasonal.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Karan, what about you? It's a lending finance, credit finance platform. So
Yes. So Kesh is a digital lending company. First of all, just a massive credit to the diversity of the panel, because I've been attending almost all panels which are fintech, and it becomes an echo chamber. Just the diversity of everyone's opinion is incredible. All right. The first thing about Kesh is, while all the other experiences are on the positive side, I will also count test taking as positive. Kesh unfortunately has to prepare already for a negative experience, because 55% of our customers get rejected. A large value of our company also comes that the 45% of customers, we actually have to extract a lot of data from them. We have to ask them how much do you earn, where do you work, what's your CIBIL score, and lots of negative things we have to prepare for, and still do it in a way where they associate a positive value with our brand, which is a very, very tricky challenge. I would love to, have a product which will promise 90% positive outcomes. Unfortunately, not allowed to do that by the P&L people in the company. At the same time, so you want to build a brand which has an empathy for the customer, where you associate with them. When you're rejecting them, also you're telling them that unfortunately we cannot give you a loan at this point of time because of XYZ reasons, but we are giving you avenues to improve your score and come back to us in 3 months or 6 months. The customers you do on board, you have to be incredibly careful. Some of them are not going to be able to pay their EMIs on time for a lot of genuine reasons, and yet be able to weed them out from the customers who are genuinely fraudulent in intent to begin with. All of these are incredibly different challenges to walk the fine line between harshness and softness, and showing the right empathy for the customer, which is a very, very difficult challenge to have. You can't just keep having positive messages. At some point of time, you have to change your tone to on the slightly harsher side. And this is where I think one of the biggest challenges for us in customer engagement comes, and it's a very, very tricky problem. The messaging, every message has to be vetted. It's compliant with RBI norms. Is it firm enough to get the customer to pay when he's 5 days late so that his CIBIL score doesn't go bad? All of these are just a lot of challenges that we run with. For us, customer engagement is actually measured by a very, very simple metric in the company. What is the average repeat rate of the customers who've paid on time? As a digital lending company which does very small ticket loans, we get 6.5. That's our number, and which is just incredible. We can get a customer to do 6.5 loans with us after he takes our first loan, and which is where we measure, and which is very, very important to us. As a company, our success rate is just measured by one metric, and that is for us customer engagement. That even in what is otherwise a negative connotation, right? The act of taking a loan is not a positive connotation in general. Make it good enough for the customer that when he thinks of a loan next, the first thing that comes to his mind is, okay, I know I have the Kish app in my phone, I'm going to click a button and Kish is, lend money to me. And that is essentially what we are working towards.
So Karan, that's so tricky. You reject them, then you retarget them.
Unfortunately, yes, we have to. These, by the way, the people we reject are also likely customers. We have one of the highest approval rates in the industry and in lending in general, because we use a combination of digital data and we also lend to self-employed people. So we know for a fact that the people we are rejecting are very unlikely to get a loan from almost anywhere else. And if they're going to get a loan in the future, we'll likely be the first set of people to actually open a loan account for them.
Even if their ticket size is small?
Even if the ticket sizes are small, yeah. I mean, it just, for some of the customer bases that we are targeting right now, there are actually no avenues. We are truly going after a segment which is unserved because as a self-employed person, if you try walk into any bank and tell them I'm self-employed, I earn 50,000 a month, I want a loan, banks will say I don't have forms where I can do personal loans for self-employed people. And that's a reality I've double, triple checked. And these are customers, mind you, are making 50,000 a month. As a salaried employee at 20,000, you probably get a loan. Just because there are mechanisms that don't exist to evaluate them very seamlessly in a cost-effective manner for the banks.
So are they necessarily new to credit or new to the internet? I mean, have they transacted before? Just curious to know.
50 to 60% of my base is NTC, which is new to credit. A completely separate overlap from self-employed, so we have like a mix of all combinations, self-employed NTC, salaried NTC. The NTC challenge is also something that we took a very long time to solve. But I think not only have we solved it, I think the industry as a whole has solved it. Indians now have a very, very rich digital footprint. We have a strong way of identifying establishing our identity using Aadhaar or many of the other modes. The challenge actually lies in establishing income without asking the customer, upload your payslip, upload your bank statements, and all of that. There are mechanisms that the government is working towards, account aggregator and everything, but they are all long way away. There is a customer base of 400 million in India which is eager to take a loan. And unlike some of my fellows who have to actually go and sell their products, we thankfully don't even have to sell our products. There's customers lined up, but you still have to have a positive experience. So it's a combination of NTC, non-NTC, salaried, self-employed people. We have people who apply from Leh Ladakh, people who apply from Andaman where we don't have presence. If the customer knows that he's going to default, there's nothing we are going to do about it because we don't have presence there. But yes, people from all over India applying for a loan in every shape and form.
Wow, that's very interesting. I will come back to you with a lot of questions. Anand, your opening remark on what customer engagement means to you.
Thank you. Okay, so I represent Mahindra Finance, which takes care of the financial services for the group. And we are serving to the rural and semi-urban. For a little fancy word, we call them RUSU. So as soon as you call them rural, it's rural, but you call them RUSU, rural and semi-urban, that's a jargon. It suddenly becomes very fancy, yeah. but yeah, the engagement here is a mix of physical and digital. We are working in villages, but at the same time, let me comment, villages are no more what we used to think of. So 70% of the country is today in rural and semi-urban, and 50% plus of the internet population of the country is from that part. So they are as digital savvy as you and I. They know, in terms of their connect with the brands, they definitely, of course, a lot of them are not physically present there, but yeah, they can connect with a lot of brands and they really romance the way, with the brands the way you and me do. When you engage with them, you have to be a little careful because it's so much spread. The country, the dialect, the language, everything changes every 200 kilometers in the country. So you have to be very careful. What works with one might not work with the other, you know. And you have to be very responsible as well as a brand custodian. For them, the mantra which at least we take is keep it simple, straight, and not layered. We are in the business of finance, which is intangible, that's not tangible, there's no object of desire, there's no aspiration of going to a cafeteria and having a latte at least. So you have to be very simple, straight, and non-layered. Second point, it has to make sense, and I call it direct connect. You have to directly connect with the customer, and for that you have to be relevant and actually check what's in it for her. Because if you're not doing that, then you're just faffing, yeah. You're actually disengaging. A lot of us, we do receive, all of us in the room, we do receive so many messages. I'm sure from morning till now you would have received so many messages in various formats. How much are we engaged? I was telling somebody a few years back, the definition of engagement, it has to be relevant. I get so many, and I would say, not just to me, we all get so many emails in our mailboxes. We kind of see them by the subject line, etc., don't even open it. Think of it. How many of you, and this is for the salaried, would have missed even a single job consultant email? You would not miss, because it's relevant to you if you are in that shift period or etc. So what we do is be relevant, be simple, talk their language, what should make sense, and yeah, that's about it. And you have to do it with a lot of care because not everything can't be digital. The definition of engagement pre-digital was shaking hands was the definition of engagement. I'm not saying I'm not anti-digital, but yeah, you have to do a very good combination of physical and digital to engage and making sense for them, not making sense for your boardroom. I mean, that doesn't work. So while we do also have our matrices, but be relevant is what my single message would be.
Thanks for that, Anand. And just to rewind to what you said earlier, thanks for busting that myth ki rural matlab garib. That's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
true.
So that's the other myth. So
Yeah.
rural is equivalent to poor. Is a bad. It's a myth.
It's a myth.
Rural is as affluent as you and I. Today, the fact that a lot of e-com are at 99% plus of pin codes, I mean, come on, they are also doing business, no? So why are they there? So the fanciest of the brands which you and me purchase here is also delivered there, hinterland. So yeah, so they're not poor. They might be uneducated, but the way of calculation, is better than you and me. I mean, you would know that. The way they calculate their lending products is very different. They don't calculate it as EMI. In fact, some of our products where we do tractor loans, they calculate from a perspective that, okay, what's the cash flow? When will my fasal get reaped? When will I go to the mandi and get it? And a lot of time we have to do not EMIs, but a 3-monthly or a half-yearly kind of stuff, because he's not getting that SMS ping every 30th of the month, no, like you and me.
Very interesting. And like you said earlier, the way they romance brands is the same.
Yes.
Yes, well said. Tapan?
Actually, Professor Ashwini has set a very tough questionnaire for us. We were just talking this some time back. What customer engagement means to me is actually stepping away from a dominant discourse. A lot of times in the past, brands were very one-way. Okay, this is what we feel is right, and then there was a one-way communication. But with the digital world, it is actually a two-way communication. Every time the user is accessing your app, they are, seeing, etc., they're talking to you. It's not about a transaction. It's about a conversation. So many, my peers sitting here, they've said that, so many times the customer comes back to them again, 6 to 7 times. I was just reading about Starbucks, and their reward program 3 years back had crossed 500,000 users, and now it's upwards of 1 million users. Now, they're saying, we are Starbucks, we don't disturb people. Still more and more people want to sign up for them. They must be reading something, they must be analyzing something. So what I want to say is the world of the dominant discourse is gone. Very right, Anand sir has said is that, I was just talking to him, just telling you a little bit of a story. I was talking what is India to someone a few days back outside India, and India, as you read it in Wikipedia, from a language perspective, we have 22 scripts and languages written in the constitution, 750 languages in the country, 19,000 dialects, 65% of our population is below 35 years of age. And we say, okay, India is like this. No, it's a mental model. 70% and more of e-commerce purchases are happening from the cities, tier 2, 3 cities and villages right now. All the EOSS, EORS sales happens there. Logistics providers, they say we are covering 99% pin codes from a forward perspective, 97 pin codes from a reverse pickup perspective. That's what they're looking at. It is so much about data. And for us as customer engagement, we should see a hyper-personalization at scale. Your brand means something to the person. Please don't broad brush paint it. Hyper-personalization at scale.
Okay, fine, but is hyper-personalization a reality even? And in fact, I'm going to ask all of you to respond to that. Is it a myth? Is it reality? How do you classify your consumer? How granular can you really get? Is it down to the individual, or do you cluster based on commonalities? So, I'm not a big fan of atomizing these things. How can you target one person? So, I don't know. Vipin,
I will.
Yes, please.
So for us, it is actually extremely important because, as I said, for us, it's a third place and everything revolves around that. In a way, what we are, I would say the ambition for the next few months, and we're calling it the second nudge, right? That's the ambition for us, for the team, at least for now, the second nudge. And I'll define the second nudge for you. So, for example, you have come into Starbucks, you have taken a cappuccino, and you are a gold member, and you have a lot of rewards in your app or in your account, and you just sit there and enjoy your coffee. I know that you've actually spent greater than 30, 40 minutes in the store. I'm calculating that. Then I take that data that you're still in the store. I take your location contextual data. I go back and then I match it with your loyalty, with your transactional data, and then I tell you, Ashwini, hope you enjoyed your cappuccino. Would you like a refill? And then, by the way, there is a free food offer in your account. Would you like add on chocolate cake on top of that? And guess what? It's free. So I have actually given you a second nudge on your table while you are surfing internet on, which is free in Starbucks. And I've taken all that and given you a hyper-personalized offer to create a second transaction for me.
That's very interesting. But
Plus, he's given you another journey.
Another
That
journey.
apart from coffee, you can enjoy food also.
And it's happening in your very private space. I'm not coming and, somebody's
First party.
watching over on you. Nobody's watching over on you, and it's just coming a very subtle nudge.
which party? See, because Vipin, that could be a function of who I'm with also.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm by myself, sure. But what if I'm with X and the same behavior doesn't replicate itself when I'm with Y? Because I go faster. I mean,
That's fine. So there are ways to segment at the back end. And of course, segmentation, behavior, analysis, all that happens at the back end. And there are, so the challenge for a marketing person is hyper-personalization at scale. It's one guy or a marketing team and they have to segment and personalize at scale.
bit of an oxymoron, no?
So it's
It
actually,
is.
I would say,
Like life.
It is a combination, right? It's a combination because, see, when I'm doing analytics and when I'm defining the next strategy for engaging and retaining my consumers, it's happening at a fairly, I would say, you can go from, like heavy, medium lapser to like actually micro segments of 100, 150, which are derived on your day parts, your food, your time of, and all that variables can be there. But and then on the other end, depending on your context, I can be hyper personalized as well. So it's not like one size fits all, and I'm always doing hyper personalized. But depending on what I'm solving for, I think that depends.
Sure. Deepak, where are you on this?
So I think, great points, but I think you also made like a fantastic point. I just want to remark on that, which is that the end state for hyper personalization, where everybody aspires to be, is, and we talk about it within our kind of conversations, is a segment of one, right? Eventually, you want to say something to. You want to say something that is very specific to only that person. That is also, in my mind, an unachievable state. It's an ideal. It's an ideal that you keep working towards. You start with very broad chunks of cohorts, and then you gradually keep whittling them down, and you're only limited by your perseverance, your appetite, and your capability. The capability bit is what CleverTap companies like CleverTap and come and kind of solve very masterfully. But this end state is, let's say, the unachievable state is the segment of one. Like that's where hyper personalization has to be, and it can never be achieved. Like imagine having 10 million customers and giving out 10 million unique messages. I mean, I don't see that happening, right? Or 100 million customers, right? So, but we should aspire for there, and then what we do to kind of get us there is where what the steps that lead us up that journey is what I think what counts, and then.
I hear you. So from a pepper fry perspective, give us an example of how you classify.
So I mean, at the very start, you kind of very basics level, right? You start with what somebody is looking to buy, whether it's a living room furniture or a bedroom furniture or a decor. You start at the broadest level. You start with what category they're looking at, right? And then you whittle them down by what room are they looking to buy it for? Then what price point? Then what wood stain? There are 1,600 wood stains, right? So it eventually comes down to like you really can. On what time of the day they're browsing or what mode they're browsing. I mean, the dimensions are endless, right? Because is it a family purchase? Is it like a family unit coming together to purchase? Because everybody has a point of view in terms of what dining table needs to be, right? So the dimensions are really, there is no ceiling to it. You can dissect them. I mean, let's just say that while we do it to a degree, but I also know that we'll never be done. I mean, that's for me is hyper-personalization. It's something that you can never truly achieve, but you should always aspire towards.
Right. No, very interesting. How do the finance folks respond to this? Because how do you really make it granular? Yes. How do you personalize?
Give one example. Sorry for.
I would definitely add after you.
Yes.
So hyperlocal has happened, but that's not hyper-personalization. And I'll start with an example. We have fixed deposits where we, of course, distribute that to across the country, but the large ticket size comes from the urban, from India, versus Bharat. That's how we kind of do that. So here, while we have our analytics in place, we are attempting it. A mix of neuroscience marketing is what we are attempting at. Marry it with the data which we already have, and accordingly then send out communication. Now, when you do a neuroscience marketing has worked when we see creatives. It's worked with the creative. We've all been told those, the way the creatives can be seen and the kind of movement, eye movement, etc. But as soon as you put neuroscience on the data, which is transaction data, which is data in terms of ticket size, data in terms of renewals, I'm specifically talking of FD. When you do that, that becomes very interesting. And we are still not there, but very, very tight cohorts. How do I talk? Fixed deposit is and that's again a little myth, and data of course proves that, but it's shifting. Fixed deposit seems to be a little safe, and hence it's seen as a elderly people product, and that's why all the banks and even us, we give extra 0.25 bips, 25 bips extra for the senior citizen. Now, see that, and we saw the data, while the father or the mother is buying the fixed deposit, actually the buying cycle or the journey at digital is done by the son or the daughter. So maybe there is something which we were missing earlier. So we started doing campaigns which were targeted for son and daughter as well as senior citizens, and we found certain, and I can't just, and they're not very big numbers to kind of announce, but yes, it is a shift. There is a delta which happened. We put that again with the kind of stuff and pegged it for our insurance products, pegged it against our mutual fund products. And we found, and of course understand, you also have to take in to consideration the current environment of where we are. There's a pandemic, there is a war, there is, I don't know how much today it went down. So with, because that's what a human being, that's the surround sound of you and me. If that's the surround sound, can I pitch something safer than the rest? It's not that I don't have the other products. It creates a sense of comfort to the consumer, and of course, context, of course, and with the help of that layering neuroscience on data, we've achieved something. I just wanted to push this piece.
Yeah, Naveen, you have to respond. Is there a family rhythm at play even for you, because it's finance and the kind of product it is?
Yeah, so just to break this into two parts. One is hyper-personalization a possibility? I would definitely believe it is yes. Let's actually rewind 2 decades or 1 decade. Most of us in our childhood would have gone to a branch along with our parents. There is a person called branch manager. Okay, he knows exactly at what life cycle that a person is, whoever is visiting the branch, he knows that this particular person's son is studying in 8th class, daughter is in 4th class, or a elder sister is getting married. These are the things that he knows, and this is what helps him to have a direct conversation, meaningful conversation. As soon as someone walks in, they will tell, Acha, how was your son's last examination? What are you doing for higher studies? Do you want his education loan? Or someone is getting married. Do you want to give gift cards? I mean, not that days, but today they can obviously have a conversation. Why don't you gift cards for people who are visiting your party, right? This is what is definitely possible, and it actually works. I mean, people also would love to go back to those branches and have these conversations, because they know that the branch manager or the branch attendant is aware of my context of life, and they also can put a meaningful conversation. Like someone was mentioning that digital is no more a item or a element, but it is a language and it is a conversation. So definitely hyper-personalization in my mind is a possibility. Now, how do we make it possible? Whatever was happening in a physical world. I mean, just to give you an example, even today when you go to your grocery store, they know that if you are coming to them on 27th of the month, they know that these are the things that you are likely to buy. If you are coming on a Friday evening, they know that these are the things that you are likely to buy. If you are coming on a first of the month, they know that this is the list that you are probably going to give. So definitely in physical world, a person is actually doing that hyper-personalization, because They know, they have the data, they have been observing you, they have that intelligence, they don't need a artificial intelligence, they have been given a gift of God-given intelligence which actually helps them to understand the context and have the meaningful conversation. Now, how do we actually replicate this in a digital world is the challenge that most of us would be putting across. Like Anand was mentioning, neurosciences, definitely this is important because normally what happens is, if someone is calling up a contact center of a bank or reaching out to a interface of the bank at 3 a.m. in the morning, normally the possible thought that comes to the product manager's mind is maybe he is in some emergency, right? Now, if you look at the previous night's transaction, whether the transaction has happened in a hospital or whether the transaction has happened in an airport will definitely change the entire context. Someone is actually calling you at 3 a.m. in the morning. If the previous transaction was in a hospital, then obviously you may have chances that you would want to help him or her with a loan at that point of time, small ticket loan to make sure that his crisis is taken care of. If he is in a probably a place which is after swiping, he is calling up contact center at 4 a.m. Maybe he's having issue with his card because he's just landed somewhere and he's not able to get money, right? Putting the context to the data, it is not as easy as we think. I mean, while we may capture so much of data, but it is all about tying those knots. And this particular journey is very, very tough in my mind. Definitely, if there are people who could, I mean, everyone is trying to crack it. And obviously, this applying of that neuroscience, like what Anand was mentioning, could be one of the ways to reach to that segment of one, because segment of one is very, very important. Everyone would like to have a conversation with person who understands him or her and not just address us as a group.
Just want to make a couple of points. बहुत सारे ऐसे business हैं जो पूरे context और recommendation पे चलते हैं. For example, suppose मैं सुबह 6 बजे gym करता हूँ और मैं बोलूँ यार recommended song चला दो और भजन चला दो तुम. तो recommendation is completely out of the toss. Let's say I have a preference to, let's say my major language is, let's say, Tamil. And suppose when I kind of recommendation, आप मुझे बाउल म्यूजिक सुनवा दो कैलकाटा का या भांगड़ा सुनवा दो तो फिर मैं बोलूँगा कि यार कैसी recommendation दे रहा है. या suppose from an OTT perspective, suppose I like to watch series like Panchayat, which are of a different speed, of a different tone. Or let's say I like to watch things on action. And if you start recommending completely of a different type, what I feel is जैसे, clothes fit us, in the same way we feel that यार ये digitally जो app है that doesn't fit me. And that's when you start moving away from the app.
Okay. Karan, Ayush, what do you think? Because,
Just one context at least I'll add is hyper-personalization for us, and I think for a lot of other companies, is very, very real. Essentially, whenever you're using either a neural network or a machine learning model with enough variables, we are actually segmenting you down to a segment of one. For example, our fraud engine is a neural network. There's literally a continuous curve. We are identifying specifically what your behavior represents, comparing it to all the interactions you've seen, and identifying whether this specific one person is a fraudulent customer or not. So at some level, whenever you're using machine learning or artificial intelligence, or machine learning for credit decisioning, has 400 variables, all non-binary, the higher option. We literally are segmenting down customers to an 8th decimal place. So we have more segments than there are people in India. So the customer is fitting into one block. The question whether hyper-personalization is really required for your product or not is a very, very different answer. For example, when we are doing offers for the customers, the different, for all the customers in India, our interest rate ranges are from 14 to 22% and 0.5% increments. But I'm fitting all of that different segments into those buckets. When we are calling the customer to identify whether this customer should be messaged, should be an IVR call, should be a human calling, or to do a visit, we are actually looking at much finer brackets. We are actually trying to look at your behavior, trying to look at the pattern of you having used your phone.
Choice of channel,
exactly. After they've entered your fold somehow,
yes,
like you've inducted them into your system and then you...
Correct, and this is largely for collections. So when we are trying to call a customer who's not paid his loan, the channel is very important. It actually, the difference in 2 or 3% is difference between a profitable company and a defunct company. in our case, and that is where it becomes very important. The choice of what is the level of segmentation you want to do has to depend on your use case. Some places you don't want to do it. Your onboarding journey, you want to keep a single onboarding journey for all segments to remove complexity. Something like fraud, you have to get to that segment of one, otherwise you have false positives and false negatives. Both are bad experiences for customers. When you're doing credit decision, you want to keep it simple for a different reason, that your call center, support center should be easy for them to communicate with the customer. Your communication channel has to be personalized well enough that you get the highest hit rate. And literally at every point of your journey, you have to make these decisions. And the important part obviously is to have the right data and have the right tools to cut, and obviously the right team to operate those tools as well. So it's a very, very nuanced,
It is.
problem.
Yeah. No, I would have assumed, you lean more towards clustering them based on commonalities, because say everyone with one common CIBIL score, say, is in one group. So isn't there merit in that, or?
No, it happens, but on multiple dimensions. So if we just, for the simplicity, let's take X, Y, Z axis. On Y axis is your users. On X axis is the journey of the user. And on Z axis is your product catalog. Yeah, what is the product they're looking at. So not just your journey, and it becomes, the journey of a customer in every app is like a, बॉम्बे जैसा नहीं, और ज़्यादा सबवे का एक वो ट्रेन का मैप होता है ना, यहाँ से यहाँ भी जा सकते हो, लंदन सबवे वाला मैप. बॉम्बे का तो सिंपल 3 लाइन है, वो काम चल जाता है. लेकिन वो customer journeys of, and then you have these 3 dimensions, and you see this user, this place of the journey, this product he's looking at. And this whole 3 dimensions gives you a cuboid actually of data. And every data point you can dissect, see, segment, see pattern, time of the day. Is recently he's transacted, frequently he transact in high monetization value, RFM, whatever. And then you tailor your conversation relevant to the user, because उसके पास attention और time नहीं है आपके लिए. We all live in micro movements. अब जैसे मैं Facebook पे कुछ अच्छा डाला, मैं चेक करूँगा यार किसने लाइक किया कि नहीं. मगर मुझे एक SMS आया कि avail this किसको पड़ी यार. So you have to have a communication for you. If you broad brush, over bombard the customer, like, they'll run away.
Interesting. Micro moments, Rusu. I'm going to go back with more jargon, and then I wanted to deconstruct. Ayush, if I'm taking the UPSC exam, for example, I'm one person, but then how do you classify me?
So how we do it is, I'll break it down into 2 parts. So for us, product personalization and communication personalization are like completely separate things. Product personalization is something that we have to do at an individual level. If you're not doing it at an individual level, then you as a UPSC aspirant and me as a UPSC aspirant will have very different journeys. And it's not a survey of like 1,000 lines, it's a survey of infinite lines. So there, for product personalization, for us, it is always at an individual level. So the product journey will be very like trimmed down to the individual. Obviously, while making it and while using some data science, we can create some clusters that help us do better analytics on whether what we are doing is right or not. Because again, when we've designed some algorithm to personalize a product journey, you cannot really analyze it at an individual level, right? Because then there'll be so much bias in whatever data you're looking at. So there, I think from a journey point of view, we always personalize the product at an individual level. We analyze it or see how it's working or it's working well or not at a clustering level. Communication for us is always at a clustering level because it's way expensive if we're doing it any other way, because it requires a human touch, it requires all of those SMSs and emails and push notifications to be written by some human. And so there it's always like at a clustering level, and that too like it's a very, very huge segments. Because that is
money is a whole different thing altogether, absolutely. At this point, I'd like to go to the audience. Do we have any questions for the panel? I have many more questions, but we can take a few from the audience.
Professor Ashwini is ready with her question paper.
I have many more, but we have 15 minutes left. Yes, please.
Hello. So I have a question for Vipin.
Sir, introduce yourself.
Myself, Tejas Shah from Kalpatru Group. So when Starbucks is keeping all this data of the customer and it's available in all the outlet, how you ensure that it's not been misused or the data is not been hacked or something? Because it's definitely not in India, but US and somewhere, if this data get from the small outlet gets misused, then it's been sued.
So amazing question actually, and it's been a great eye opener for me since the time I've joined Starbucks, because security at Starbucks is absolutely the topmost priority, and I'll give you examples because I've seen through that. So when I joined Starbucks, I used to get a call from the US team, who's a centralized security management across the globe, and I get a call at 5 o'clock in the morning saying we've actually identified a breach from our bounty program which we ran across the globe, and this is the vulnerability that is there, and please, you need to fix it. You have 24 hours or we take the asset down. So that's the first dimension, right? So it's completely globally managed, and it's such a high end of security. I can't disclose a lot of the things, but it's fairly sophisticated. Secondly, to your point around the stores, we actually don't collect any consumer data, if you have noticed, in the stores. You actually just take your app and then you scan your barcode. There is a card number which is then is nowhere seen. It's all encrypted. The data on rest is encrypted. The data in transit is encrypted, and there is no way that can happen. But yes, so security is quite a paramount, and I can tell you, I've worked in my earlier role within the retail world in India. We'll be probably investing the most in security. I can say that. Huh?
Okay, great. Thank you. We can take one. You want to respond to that?
Yeah, I just want to add to that is, so PII is very, very sensitive, and all this data is first party data. Plus there are, as talked about, there are masks and you cannot see that data. I want to give the word data the rightful place in the discussion. There is data, there is, patterns, there is insights. Somebody might talk patterns and insights, they are not talking about raw data. So while anybody may talk that this is the pattern of consumer, this is a segment of consumer they've seen, they're not talking about what you are doing or at that level. It is at a pattern and an insight level.
Okay. Since we're on the subject of data, I want to throw one question at everybody. Give me an example of one data-led decision you took in recent times. Because, ironically, data is still such a nebulous concept. Let's get more specific about it. And what was the big insight that data unearthed?
So let me start. So at Kish, we've very recently launched a new product called Ring. It's a payments product. Ring. And essentially what we're doing is it's where we give a customer a limit and ask them to do a lot of transactions. It's a micro-transaction product. When we were looking at data, we were analyzing profitability. We were looking at lots and lots of different cuts. One of the most important data points that came out is what we call the first cycle repeat rate, which is what part of your customers who've transacted, who you originated, you spent 400 rupees to acquire, what percentage of that customers go into the second cycle, who come and do a transaction in the next billing cycle. For us, that percentage was 45%. And we plugged a lot of the variables into an Excel sheet, and we realized that there are many, many numbers. Your CAC number, your LTV, and all of that. That one single number is going to swing my company's profitability from minus 200 crores per year to about 600 crores per year if you are just able to take it from 45 to 65. So for every 100 customers you acquire, just make sure 65 of them, you can manage them over onto the next cycle. And this is essentially the holy grail. We saw that and we said that, okay, let's deprioritize everything else in our pipeline. Let's just bring in loyalty, bring in rewards, bring in coupons. And then that's where we realized that, you can throw a lot of money at coupons and to customers it looks like a lot of money, but when you do a long-term value calculation with the customer, it makes an insane change. And that's what we realized, that I'm not joking, my entire company right now is just focusing. There's a big monitor dashboard which has that number on it.
Is that an LTV to CAC ratio kind of?
No, so LTV to CAC ratio for us is slightly stable, but it's stable for the customers that we are able to get through beyond the first cycle.
Okay, so it's repeat bias, more complete retention dashboard.
Retention, exactly. Okay. And it's very challenging because, in payments, India has incredible number of options. You have phone pays, Google pays, Slice, One Card, Lazy Pay, so many things. You have to get the customer to come back to you. It's literally that if you lose the customer's attention for half a day, he would have had another payments app in his phone. And for us, that one single number is holy grail. and I'm not exaggerating, when large part of the company, tech, product, analytics, business are all just focused on how do we get that number to be stellar.
Okay, fantastic, fantastic. Let's have more examples of data-led decisions, and no pressure on real-time data. It can be data and, hindsight, retrospective data also.
I can go next, right? So one of the things I spoke about earlier, and I think you also you were alluding to the point when I think we were talking about the sheer amount of options that exist in Starbucks, but you still go for a latte. So I think the point, I think it's slightly differing from there is that while it's in their interest to get somebody to kind of customize the drink, but in our interest, what it happens is that there is this paradox of choice, right? So too much choice cripples people's decision making. So and fundamentally, because in our case, furniture is a largely discovery-based product, or a home, anything for your home is largely discovery-based. If I were to ask you brands that you know, you probably would be able to count the total number of brands that you know for home on your fingers, right? Maybe toes. But for the most part, it has to be a discovery process, right? People browse. So we realize that if we kind of put out 10,000 sofas up for consumption, people will browse 10,000 sofas. I kid you not, and I'm not exaggerating this number. So one of the things that we realized through data was that beyond a point, the page depth, the conversion rate tends to flatten or starts dipping. You would imagine that the higher the engagement, the better the conversion, but that's not the case. Yeah. So that was a key point, right? You were giving people too much choice. It's just crippling the decision-making process. So there's that one. So that was something that we realized, and we kind of trimmed the catalog, and then and kind of introduced the right kind of nudges, to help them decide. Because eventually you invest too much and you say, oh look, and maybe it's not the right time. It's the same thing with such a personal purchase.
So where do you cut that? How do you decide where to stop?
That is a magic number, but then that's where the hyper-personalization comes in the picture, because you kind of have to do it.
And not just that, you can, in the data, you can create a dig site and, see that data. For example, let's say for a furniture decision making, let's say I'm just generally speaking, is let's say if you see the notifications which you're sending between, say, 10:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. are mostly red. And then you have, let's say, a mapping of the gender as well. So you start getting a decision. Or let's say if you see during lunch times and post-dinner, your notifications are generally getting red. Then, and which day of the week, time of the day, and you create that dig site and you can see that this is what is working. And then change it accordingly.
Okay.
It's basically death by, I mean, no, not the right analogy, but death by 1,000 cuts. You have to do these millions of interventions, keep trying, iterating, testing, and I think that's what.
Right. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So from a data perspective, I think a lot of our customers, the entire credit worthiness is where the data work comes into the play. My existing customers house the payment pattern, especially for vehicle loans. Tractor loans, sub 1 ton, the pickups, etc. we see. We created something known as India Maps, and it will show through the analytics that which are the negative areas. And when I say negative areas, so there are certain negative areas where you lend, and the data shows that your payment or the repayment would be a challenge. So basis that, the sales force, as in the FOS, they were trained and they were accordingly allocated. So let's say if I give an example of Haryana, and this is just an example, let's say Hisar comes in a negative. Of course, I'll put less energies in Hisar and put more across other parts of that state. Now, further when you deep dive, and that we married this with the tractor data. This is a pickup data and the tractor data. Now tractor and our customers are earn and pay customers. So unlike vehicle loans, you and me drive vehicles for convenience, commutation, etc. These customers, they take vehicles for earning. So they buy a tractor for their farming needs. Then the same family or the brother would buy a pickup to carry this harvest to the mandi. And that's what I said, the rural consumers are much hardworking than you and I. So when we went deep, we realized, let's say a same example of Hisar has to be given, because of a bad crop, and because of certain schemes which were announced and they were not paid whatever from whichever government, is what impacted their repayment. So they were not bad, or they were not intentional bad repayment guys. They were circumstantial. But yeah, for that period, I know that for my NPAs to get balanced, and I know, I'm sure you know what I'm referring to. So we will avoid going to those places. And across the country, some 600 plus districts, we created these areas. And it was a very, very nice dashboard where you can really see that the green, red, amber would actually appear. So I think hats off to my analytics team.
Fantastic.
And that would also tell the boys on the ground where to hunt and where not to hunt.
Wonderful example. Yeah, more data-led decisions, and the more recent your example, the better.
Yeah, so, sorry, again. As banks, we are blessed with data, transaction data, customer data, and I think we have used a lot of data to do internal data to do customer cross-sell or customer induced behavior. But what I want to tell you is something where we have done something a bit different, if I have to tell you. We have a program called Yes Money. What does this program do? We have a partnership with about 30 odd business correspondent partners, which are companies who are specialized in going and scouting retail kirana stores and empowering them with some technology which can help customers to experience something called as a next door banking. So if you are sitting in any part of the country, you can walk into a nearest retail kirana store and do 2 to 3 transactions, which is if you have a cash, you can give cash and that will be transferred to any bank account in few seconds. So that is what we call it as a domestic money transfer. Second thing is they also have machines which can enable customer to give their Aadhaar and biometric details to withdraw money from their bank account, or swipe their debit card and enter the PIN and withdraw their money from the bank account. Now what we have seen is, like he was mentioning, Bharat as a segment where the branch and ATM penetration is very low. This is where people were actually relying on these outlets to withdraw cash. And one of the things that we also saw that we have spikes the times when government was giving out subsidies. So you know that during COVID and even today we have various subsidies that government roll out, and there is a 3 or 4 day period where these subsidies are given, right? Now what we have done is, and we have also seen that most of the people actually come to these outlets to withdraw cash and not really rely on going to their bank branches or the bank ATMs. That is when we thought that let us actually try and find out where this subsidy goes, and we are actually talking to these business correspondents and asking them to put or appoint more and more agents where this subsidy reaches, so that the people there will have more means to access these points and withdraw data. This is something where we are actually taking the data from the external world and trying to do something external to the bank to increase our ability to service customers in a very good manner. So this is one thing that comes to my mind immediately. Obviously, otherwise, there have been number of instances where we have used our rich transaction data to cross-sell various products, like he was mentioning, financing or even card products are definitely sold to people. And of course, sometimes we also create that excessive communication, which again probably ends up in creating a blind spot to the customer. But again, it's a matter of time where this also has to be sanitized, and then we actually hit a sweet spot with respect to communication versus return on communication.
Sure. No, good example. Data through partnerships. Ayush?
So I'll tell you a story. So when Textbook started online coaching, so what we did was we tried to replicate the offline world. So what happens in an offline coaching or an offline training institute, right? There's a teacher who's teaching on a board, and a bunch of students are preparing from that teacher. And we thought the best way to replicate is doing a live class, right? Like a live session or a live class that they do it digitally. And when pandemic hit, that sort of helped boost it up, because now they could actually not go to an offline coaching because of the lockdown and other restrictions. We launched it because of the pandemic. It did really well for like the first year. But later we realized with data that that is not really the case. Like replicating the offline behavior to a digital medium, it's not exactly happening. People did not really care about whether the teacher was teaching live or whether it was a recorded session. Because with the live comes a lot of other constraints, right? The student has to be there at that time. They cannot download it and watch it later. They can, on an unstable internet, they'll not be able to attend the class. And for us, like, that's a huge use case. So there we realized that, with a lot of data, we saw that people were willing to buy. Because of the pandemic, they did not have an option, but they're not really engaging that much, which they were engaging in an offline model where the attendance and the total people coming to the course were much, much higher than in an offline world where we were expecting that, digitally they'll come more. It's just, you have to open an app. You don't have to commute. You don't have to go and rent a hostel in Kota or Delhi to go to that coaching institute. But still, our attendance digitally was lower than an offline coaching attendance. And that is when we realized that, this replication will not work. People just want to do those live classes for some specific types of sessions where they want to engage, ask doubts. But for the core learning, they are way more happier with, something they can download and watch and see at their own convenience. I think this was a very big data decision that we took like 4 months back. And that is where we came up with this hybrid model wherein, which we call super coaching, where we have partnered with very good teachers, got their recorded content, and we have a set of in-house teachers who take those live sessions which we know that students really engage with.
And this
So
was
that is-
recent or soon after?
So this
you
was
launched?
like 4 months back,
I see.
after the third
Right.
wave sort of subsided. That is when we sort of took this call.
Great, fantastic. Now, I have one last question for everyone before we go back to the audience for their questions. Just tell me how the basic thumb rules or tenets of your customer retention strategy has evolved in the last, say, 6 to 12 months. That's the bracket I like. 6 to 12 months is not too far back. It's recent enough to have an impact on the here and now. So, and I'm especially curious to see how the answer changes for B2B and B2B2C and B2C. And we've got all types on the panel. So let's talk about retention.
Actually, I don't think it has changed much. A retention strategy for us, I think it's a different framework for us, because whenever somebody comes to a loyalty program, they're actually paying to come to the loyalty program. So we actually charge a certain amount of money for you to buy a card, or to even actually experience the app, we actually charge the money. So for us, I think the basic tenets has been always the same. As I started where I started saying, it's a third place. So how can we give you the right experience in the store, on the app, and as gentlemen said, keeping you that privacy in our stores as well as on the app. We don't really try to oversell. So for Starbucks, I think the pillars of retention around experience, the right product, the right service, the right experience, the right ambience in the stores, that privacy, the neighborhood store, all the tenants have remained the same. What we are trying to do from a recruitment and also retention standpoint is that we are trying to reduce the barrier with the brand, because today, let's say, as you said, if you want to experience a brand, you actually get about 4 or 5 minutes with the barista, where you can actually ask maybe a few questions around coffee, or what kind of coffee you choose, what is the difference between a blended coffee versus a single origin coffee, and whether you would like a pour over or a French, whatever those permutation combinations are. We are trying to break those barriers using digital platforms. So you can know more. For example, today, I don't know how many of you know, but they're actually coffee tasting. So like people do wine tasting, we actually have coffee tasting.
I think it's called cupping.
Sorry?
It's called cupping.
Yeah, so coffee tasting we do. So we do, and we are now starting a whole campaign around coffee tasting, around India, where are actually the master baristas. Baristas are our partners who are actually coffee connoisseurs. They actually will teach you how to, how to taste coffee, and what are the various aspects of coffee and all that. So I think for us, retention and acquisition is going to revolve around how do we then make the brand more accessible to everybody. How do we educate people about coffee? How do we, and then rest of the pillars, as I said again, they just remain the same.
Okay, great. We can go in any order. Same question. Let me just qualify that a bit more. How do you measure customer retention? Because, if you can't measure it, you can't control it. That's true for everything, like for exercise, consumer marketing. studies?
So you
Yeah.
need measurement matrices, or first what exactly
Both.
we do?
How has your customer retention strategy changed, and what metrics do you swear by?
So yeah, pandemic actually has changed a lot as far as rural is concerned. So we've heard of Born Digital. We are adopt or changed to digital. What it did was all the consumers were ultimately forced to adopt digital. So it's a forced digital, whether they love it or not. But yeah, when they started using it, they said, hey, listen, why was I not doing it earlier? So, basis that, all other things also changed. The consumer behaviors changed. In fact, more than that, I say leave consumer behavior, and this is for everybody. I mean, human behaviors changed. So of course, consumer is a subset of that. What we did was we added 2-3 engagement legs to enhance retention. And very clearly on retention, I say don't jump directly to retention. You have to go through. So we have a framework which we call PODER, P-O-D-E-R, where R comes last. P is pre-purchase, O is onboarding, D is delight, which a lot of us forget, engage, and after that retain. Unfortunately, marketers, we don't have time, and along with our business guys, we start from the reverse. We start retaining. Before he's actually got engaged, delight is, you leave delight. So understand, if you do the onboarding and delight, we'll have to put less moolahs on retention. So if we can do the spade work, because ultimately, so that's what we've done. We've done a lot of engagement around digital adoption, but more than that, around the entire fraud management. What has happened? They are early users of digital. They were using digital earlier for entertainment. So, and now they've shifted heavily on transaction. So maybe paying their EMIs and all of that. And as digital has enhanced, so have the digital pickpocketers, as I call them. So we do a lot of stuff, and that's on ground. And believe you me, the rural consumers, they are glued on to this thought of getting educated of how, because it's their hard-earned money. And there's a simple app coming, or a simple, JPEG coming on a WhatsApp, pay through, with the VP and all. And all of them, hats off to Indian digital pickpocketers, yeah. So they would look just like us. So that's one which we've done. And that's reaping good benefits. Because one is the entire shift of habit. Second, they're loving it, because they would, you have to actually see our branches on the 5th and 15th of every month, where they will queue to pay the EMIs in cash. We have a fleet of 5,000 people who go to their doorsteps, even today, to collect it in cash. So that's one. So on retention, that's the engagement piece, where we are looking, yes, the retention rates are increasing. In terms of the matrices, yes, the entire average product per customer is one yardstick. We do satisfaction indexes, that's the other yardstick. And in terms of the cross product, is what we see. So you have let's say a vehicle loan, and you've also taken a SME loan. So that's a true retention. I am not a bank, so I don't have a CASA and then the cards and other stuff. But within the product portfolio, how do we see the swing happening?
Interesting. Thank you for that. Yeah, great. You want to add something, Tapan?
So retention taking the center stage in an industry discussion itself a maturity, because we've moved from a B2C digital businesses from an acquisition mindset to more a retention mindset. The second thing, as Starbucks has said to us, is there's something which about the brown drinks, they are very personalized. Chai ho gayi, coffee ho gayi. In the past, coffee, we remember the bitter coffees, because the industry wanted to achieve a standardization. And they said, कि this is the coffee, सब जगह एक जैसी मिलेगी, यही पिलाओ. From now, the world is completely changed. Everybody wants their own kind of coffee. I want a hazelnut coffee, a vanilla coffee, something with a little bit of orange in it, like you put Angostura bitters in a scotch. And more retention from the messaging perspective, from an experience perspective, is more and more personalized. So retention taking the center stage itself is a maturity. The second thing quickly I want to mention is a small story. 3 weeks back, I was in the Southeast Asia space, talking to one of the large super apps. And I said, okay, it's just 7 days in a month gone. Let's see your app. And their app, they opened the dashboard. Their app was opened by 100 million times. And I said, okay, so what are you doing? This is 100 million times your app has been opened already now. Yeah. And I said, how many campaigns you're running? Oh, we're running 30,000 campaigns. And I said, okay. And then, okay, so how do you personalize? And I said, oh, we have 1,000 journeys. Somebody who's, in the past 3 times taken this promo, this is the starting point of the journey. And I realized that the amount of conversation the digital space is doing, the consumer is actually talking to you continuously. You should be able to analyze it and read it, see the water of the eye, see the inclination, and to be able to target it. And very much fitting the consumer, the individual distribution curve, wherever the person is in the curve. That's what is retention to
You
me.
have to name the app.
I cannot.
Yeah, please.
I already know the name.
Yeah, I'll do that.
I'm sorry.
So I think one thing that has changed for us in the recent, 12 months to 18 months rather than 6 to 12, more out of our team's maturity and less out of the macroscopic factors, is our reliance on communication. So Tapan would have something else to say about it. But so I'll give you a small brief, right? So earlier, if we had to retain some user on a particular journey, then you first send that person a reminder through some SMS or a push notification or some in-app. But later we realized the CTRs and the actual numbers from all the modes of communications are very, very low. If we really need to retain them, so what we started measuring was a unique metric, was how many times the users opening the app without a notification or without a communication. So that is, those self-app opens is something now that the team started chasing. And it has resulted into very, very different impact. So because now you cannot actually reach out to the customer, you have to do everything in the previous session.
Means not talking also is talking actually.
Yes.
And that's the dream, right?
Yes,
That they
that's
open
the
Memory.
dream.
That's muscle memory for the user.
So that's something that we've started measuring, self-app opens. And to do anything in that self-app open, you have to do it in the previous session. We really can't do anything in the next session because you have to chase a self-app open. User will have to remember something that he or she did on that product. So that is a new metric that sort of brought a lot of great insight for the team in both building a great content and a great product. But other than that, we measure all those basic metrics of retention, daily, monthly, weekly. But this is something new that we sort of started doing.
Great. Okay. Deepak, Karan, quickly closing remarks on retention. Then
So
we
I
go to
think,
the audience.
Yeah, I think I'll kind of start with because I don't have a great answer on the change because it's not been like this macro change, right? So our North Star metrics are NPS and LTV by CAC in that order, and as I think I think a lot of folks here called out retention is the end state, right? There's a bunch of stuff that you have to do right so that I think everybody kind of alluded to that point, right? Retention is what you get when you do like a dozen things correctly upstream. I think when identifying those, doing those, for us effectively is whatever improvements have happened, those have been in response to initiatives or actions that we would have taken. So there's no big major, there hasn't been a major paradigm shift in terms of people are suddenly more economical, because I think for better or for worse, our category benefits from the category or the digital space as a whole. So I think for us, so that way it has been in response to actions and initiatives we've taken, but no major paradigm shift.
That's perfectly summed up, yeah.
We are a fintech and digital app, so for us, measuring retention is easy. Companies like CleverTap are our best friends. But the benefit of being app-only digital is there's truckloads of data. So that's, and we have a lot of metrics for us. Obviously, the key metric is over the life cycle of a customer, how many loans he takes. strategies to improve retention. I think one of the things that has unfortunately happened because of all the funding pouring in into the Indian ecosystem, you're now literally fighting for every customer. Unfortunately, the answer for us has been the best way to improve retention right now is to throw a lot of offers at the customer. That's the reality of the fintech space for now. But that's us for a nutshell. And just the right metrics will allow you to just give a better offer to the customer.
Better ROI on the marketing money.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. That's all we have time for, unfortunately. You can grill them over dinner. I learned a lot. It was a very, very insightful panel. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Professor Ashwini, for keeping us on our toes and to be able to, rotate the topic. Thank you very much, really.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. I just want to quickly summarize. I had many takeaways. Okay, I'm sure the audience also has lots of takeaways. 2 takeaways for me is, one, hyper-personalization is not a myth. Okay, because that's the mindset I came with. And second, delight the customer and retention takes care of itself. So,
Very nice.
Thank you. Thank you very much.